Hey everybody, welcome to Richard Listens Show, and we are here back hitting 2019 strong. And let me tell you, everything that I'm putting out there in the universe to manifest is, and somehow my unpaid jobs are keeping me busier than my paid jobs, but that's another story. Today is about, so we talk about paying it forward, we're talking about paying it back a little bit. We had our guest on about a year ago, and he had to share the spotlight, so we wanted to give him a chance to be the guest today in our new location, a little bit easier commute, and that's part of the value we try to provide here on the Richard Listens Show. We try to feature high performers from a variety of domains, so look forward to in 2019 we're going to have a member of the UCLA Women's National Soccer Team champions, believe from 2016. We're going to have tennis pros, so I appreciate all your feedback on new areas and realms of high performers. So today we are going to be covering the area of medicine, specific geriatric and mobile medicine. We're going to learn a little bit about continuing with sports as an adult, and we're going to talk a little bit about an area which Dr. Lefferman and I have intersected, which is youth sports and the madness that it can be and how it can totally consume your life. So today in studio we have with us, without further ado, Dr. Matthew Lefferman of Access Healthcare.
Thank you, Richard. I appreciate that warm introduction. Sorry I can't reach the level of the professionals you'll be having on in the future. Taking care of seniors and mobile medicine is not necessarily so glamorous, but hopefully I can share some pearls of wisdom that will help your guests. So thank you for having me.
Thank you. And also in studio we have Miss Elizabeth Giraldo. G is pronounced. She is, she'll introduce herself, but she's also a part of the mobile marketing medicine team. That's a lot of M's right there.
Yes,
and,
it is.
And hopefully we'll dig a little bit into her own athletic career, and I hope somebody says something controversial about Columbia soccer because
Oh, do not get started, please. Hi, everybody.
I was a little bit sad to miss watching that World Cup game with you guys, but then I figured it was not such a happy day.
No, it wasn't, but we did put on a really good show, so you're welcome, world.
That's true. Yes, I was, I don't think I called the office for 2 days after out of respect.
Well, the office was closed for those 2 weeks, actually, so.
So that's an
You know what happened to the Colombian player in the past who gave up an own goal against the U.S.
Did
and ended up
threats?
losing the game. He lost his life a few weeks after the World Cup. This was, I forget the year, in the late 80s.
Really?
Yes. So they take their soccer
1985.
very seriously.
Is it still like that?
It still is. I think it was at the time whenever he shot the goalie in the wrong, he shot in the wrong goalie.
Correct.
Yes.
Oh, he tried to
An
clear
own
it.
goal. Yes.
Yeah.
Colombia versus USA.
Yeah, okay. So that keeps it in perspective when I'm getting too heated on the sideline. This is not life
No
or death.
comment. We were together a lot over the weekend, and no comment. I hear, though, that you still have a voice left, so you had some shouting to do that you didn't get out of your system.
I decided to sit down. At a certain point, when the players sit down on the field, there's not a lot.
We did have that. We had
Yes.
that, too, yes.
What game are you talking about? What game were you at?
So apparently, and this is, I did not play youth soccer. I relatively was pretty useless as a sweeper. I was just like like one of those, what do you call them?
Water
Foosball
boys?
games.
Oh,
water
okay.
boy. Yeah, I might as well have been
Okay.
a water boy. I was like one of those foosball players that you just like, swing and kick it one direction. So every time a player's struggling out there, I have to keep in mind that they're way ahead of me. And these are young children, but it is so competitive out there, and AYSO, the American Youth Soccer Organization, is a great place for kids to get involved from all income levels and all areas of Los Angeles. So it's been a great opportunity, and it's kind of one of those situations where it's volunteer led. So if you're willing to participate and step up, they'll usually give you the job. So it certainly isn't always about your qualifications. They do train you and certify you. But at this level, it's tournament level postseason play, and it's pretty impressive to watch people from all the different neighborhoods of Los Angeles, and there's certain teams that are co-ed, and the team that won the whole thing, the best player was a female, and
This
they
is
dominated.
kids who are 10 and 11.
10 and
just
11 years old.
And
In soccer.
Dr. Richard has a son, David, and I have a son, Jacob, and they're playing together on the same team. So we coach together. So
Yeah, and I always use this, by the way, as an example. You know, we step back on looking at, you know, people always ask me, you know, clients ask me, well, how can I network? How can I meet people? And in reality, I don't even know what got you to start the youth. He had a youth program. Dr. Matthew had a youth program. I didn't know his profession at all, and it was an opportunity for kids to come out and learn soccer. And just being there as a witness, I had no idea. I was probably coming off some night shift of crisis response. And I don't think for years I even knew that he practiced medicine. So it's very interesting how if you just allow yourself to get out there and get uncomfortable,
Right.
you know, in this case, it's one of the gifts of being a parent is that your kids tell you what you want, and sometimes if you just give it to them, it opens you up and exposes you in a different way. If you don't have children, that's okay. You know, just expose. Anytime you know, we talk about often the art of getting comfortable being uncomfortable. So I thought it was interesting yesterday. You know, I was keeping that lens present for our kids who, you know, they have to learn for the first time to play in the morning, come back in the afternoon. We didn't even know from Saturday to Sunday that we were going to keep playing. So it's really hard on your nervous system rest-wise. They had, we were really just formed the team about a month ago, and totally different personalities and emotional compositions of the kids and the players. Ages, they can be a year apart, so you can be developmentally about almost 2 years in some. So to see that dynamic then to show up in a different area of the city maybe than some of these kids have been to. One time it was hot, one time it was cold, one time the field was bumpy, one time the field was slick and it was the size of a high school field. So having to adjust to those things are probably the kind of things that professional coaches have a bunch of management and advisors present for. So it's pretty impressive to see all those things that go into like learning and developing as an athlete.
you can relate to what the professional coaches go through, but it's as much teaching skills as it is bringing a team together and understanding their personalities.
Yeah, and professional teams now, I think almost every team has a sleep advisor, right? Because of the jet lag from going East Coast to West Coast. I think they've gotten into practice somewhat controversially, the fans of sitting players. If they see their rest or sleep is going to be way thrown off, they'll sit them for a day.
Oh, wow.
So they've gotten keen to like how environment and biorhythms get affected. Yeah. Yes. So let's see. Okay, no questions yet. We do have a hello. Hello, Ernesto Ramos. Please type in your questions if you're out there for Dr. Matthew or Elizabeth. Any topic from mobile medicine, and you can always bring us back to sports. We go there comfortably. So without staying too long in soccer, since I know we'll get back there anyway, tell us a little bit, Dr. Lefferman, how did you get on the path to medicine, in Johns Hopkins, we know one of the top universities in the nation, and then, to geriatrics. It's not, we know it's, as you and I have learned personally and professionally, it's not always that common that people aspire to this population. So tell us a little bit about.
Sure. So, geriatric medicine is not glamorous medicine. Most of the graduates of medical school are not going into geriatric medicine. They're looking for residencies in dermatology. They're looking for residencies in radiology, frequently fields where they're high paying, but you're spending not a lot of time with patients. And for myself, as I was going through medical school and thinking about my future, I always felt a strong connection to the senior population. I always had good relationships with my grandparents. Actually, my wife's grandparents, she had a grandmother who died at 102. Wow. So was able to be with her over many years and see what she went through. And also, I am Jewish, and I spend time in synagogue, and over the years, really found myself connecting with the older Jewish guys at synagogue.
The guy who slips a candy out of his pocket, gives you a pat on the back.
Well, I love herring. I love herring. So, they're always happy to share a little schnapps and herring and have someone to drink with. So I was happy to oblige. But I always enjoyed connecting with them, and it's very much a forgotten generation. We just had yesterday in Judaism Holocaust Remembrance Day, and that's just one point of reference. Holidays throughout the secular calendar as well that kind of force us to remember what the greatest generation went through. But there was a significant sacrifice, and I think for those, I was born in the 70s, 1972 to be exact, and it's somewhat removed from that generation that sacrificed so much. And as I've gone through my training and had the chance to practice professionally with seniors, there's a significant amount to learn and to take the time to delve into the struggles that they had and what made them succeed, and when chips were down, so to speak, what they had to do, and how they really developed this country. It's a fascinating generation, and to be able to interact with them, and I enjoy it professionally. In terms of my specific practice, it's much more than just a geriatric practice. As you said, it's mobile medicine, and the idea is to bring quality geriatric medical care to seniors wherever they live, be it in a home, be it in a nursing home, be it in assisted living. And it was really shocking to me. These were patients with significant amount of resources, many paying to live in assisted living communities, and they pay thousands of dollars in Beverly Hills, Hollywood, $8,000-$10,000 plus, but yet the level of medical care was insignificant and not really meeting their needs, and patients going to the emergency department unnecessarily and not getting the preventive care really which they needed. There's a geriatric medicine as well as it's not glamorous, and there's a facet of what you do in psychology. There's a facet of a little bit of everything. I have a lot of patients who are, let's say, falling, they're malnourished, they're diabetes, dementia. So it's a wide range of expertise, and it's appealing to be able to use my wide range of interest to engage with them and hopefully improve their lives.
So do you feel like challenged, and that the field continues to grow? What your knowledge base needs to be, and the methods of treating and preventing? Like, do you still get the same excitement about the potential for geriatric medicine?
But we keep hearing about this generation being there's a silver tsunami, in that there's so many older patients, and there's still a lack of medical care for that population. So there's always a need for more going on in new and innovative ways to help manage them, help to keep them out of the hospital. And at the same time, my general philosophy is less is more, and really focusing on their quality of life as much as their quantity of life, because very much that gets overlooked. I had the opportunity, I'll put a plug, I don't know this person, the physician and author Atul Gawande, and he wrote a book, Being Mortal, which maybe you can post on your page. It's an excellent primer in the medical care for this.
Pull that up, a link to Being Mortal.
Towards the deficiencies in medical care towards the elderly population. And unfortunately, medicine is very much curative focused and medication focused, and doesn't think about the quality of life metrics. And in fact, if you were to look at them, if you say, I'm going to give a patient either 3 months of chemotherapy, or I'm going to give them 3 months of intensive psychology and music therapy, they actually might live longer with the latter. And patients, if you really did if the medical community caught on to that, they'd say, what are you doing bothering giving someone chemotherapy? So to be able to bring some of those ideas into the mainstream continues to be a challenge, and hopefully I'm doing my part to bring those to the fore.
So do you feel that you've been welcomed? Is there a community of people trying to push forward like more of a longevity approach or quality of life approach, or do you feel like there's resistance?
Well, let's let Elizabeth chime in
Yeah.
here. Let's bring her into the
You're
fray.
so formal, yeah.
I am,
On
I am
camera.
very-
She's been quiet over there, but
I am. I'm just listening.
I
in.
mentioned that
I'll
because
chime
she
in.
has a strong background in assisted living communities and working with seniors as well, more in the management and oversight of facilities, and has interacted with a number of physicians over the years, and maybe can speak to what else is out there and where the demand is in facilities and what
Yeah.
else is being done.
And I'm gonna give Elizabeth
Yes.
15
The
seconds to
platform.
prepare,
Okay.
which could reduce her anxiety by giving her
I'm
an
not
extra
shy. I'm not shy. I'm just being
No.
respectful here.
There you go. But I want to say so. I just want to touch on one thing that
Yes.
Dr. Matthews said before we let you get your
Absolutely.
well-deserved floor here, and I thank you for coming in and being here.
Thank you.
Is that when Dr. Lefferman was talking about his connection to grandparents and to the senior community, I'm often talking in somatic experience about things that become a resource. So when your connection to your elders becomes something that soothes you or inspires you, then we're more likely to move in that direction. Like it feels positive as a direction for us to provide care in that way. And I think a lot of what happens is with limited access to our,
Yes,
I didn't really know
exactly.
my grandparents well, being cut off from it, it becomes, and seniors being maybe in assisted living out of sight for a lot of people, or living only in certain communities, that it provides this disconnection from children, and they're afraid of older people. So it's really something. I'm really happy that my children's school, for instance, goes and visits an assisted living, that they have the connection, that kind of healing organic process of connection throughout the lifetime, sharing and disseminating of whether it be a little love of food or candy, or just a little bit of they get to share their wisdom and experience, and children get access. So
True.
I mean, I think assisted livings are great for those that can afford it, but just like Dr. Lefferman was mentioning, is that only if you are of, we'll say, like the top 5% that can actually afford to have your mom, your father, your grandparents in a home. Because the average cost, we'll say, for an assisted living with no care is, we'll say, $6,500. If we're talking, they do need assistance with all the additional support, assisting with bathing or even walking, you're looking at an average $9,500. So what does the rest of the world do when their parents or their grandparents are transitioning in care? And I think we're all at that age now where you do have a family member that is transitioning, whether it is their cognitive state, where they're now starting to have a form of dementia or Alzheimer's, or even, like you were touching base, is that it's, the senior population is not something that we tend to see and we tend to talk about a lot. But if we're talking about even anybody, any average person that has a mental cognition, how would you say it? Like
Cognitive decline?
Yeah, I mean, that could be, or, we do see the amount of homeless people that are out in the streets, and it's very unfortunate because there's a lack of resource for mental health, in addition for lack of resources for our senior community. And it's not something that's discussed every day. I know living in Los Angeles, it's, you're on the news and it's all cars and music, and it's not news, it's noise. So what we need to really discuss is the resources that we're actually providing, not only for the actual patients themselves, but those families that are in a bind with lack of resources, lack of money. You have a family to care for, but yet you have
An aging
you
parent,
have your
yeah.
own family and you have an aging parent, or maybe you have a cousin or a sister that has schizophrenia, or or something else that really just doesn't allow them to live, what do I want to say here?
Productive life.
I guess you could, like a productive life.
Yeah, because you become isolated or just in a room, and
No, and it's sad. This is the real world, and it's the resources. There's no resources. Really, there's no money.
Well, I don't know the exact numbers, but if you were to compare the number of dollars that are spent on cancer research versus Alzheimer's research, it's a staggering difference. and we have a long ways to go to increase that. And it's kind of what you're saying, that it's a forgotten population generation. I guess the NRA is a very strong lobby, but AARP isn't necessarily. So
Right.
seniors don't get the attention that they need.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people don't know that their insurance does cover a doctor to come to their home and see them at home. So what's really nice is, for us going to the doctors, we get ready, we go to the doctor's office. But for your average senior, it really puts a deep impact. Showering, getting ready to go to the doctors, even the full transportation, getting them in the car if they're wheelchair bound. It's extremely tiring for the caregiver as well as for the senior themselves. So for a doctor to be able to come to your home, or any specialist to be able to come to the senior's home and see them, they can see their living, they can see, okay, do you have a carpet? Maybe make some recommendations with, it's not just looking at the patient as a person, but you're looking at the patient as a whole, their living conditions, who's caring for them, and also make your professional opinion based on what you see at home.
Yeah,
So,
we're pretty fortunate in Los Angeles. Maybe it's only because I started to treat seniors myself, but to see that there are some organizations and resources out there. I think it's MAPS will be having their annual meeting soon. Lunch, yeah.
Yes.
I got to make my reservation.
yes.
Great iced tea. But I forget what the acronym stands for. MAPS.
Marketing and admissions professionals for seniors.
Very good, very
yeah.
good. It doesn't
How they
really
do.
do justice what they do. That was incredible. I can never
Where's
remember.
where are the sound effects? Ding, ding, ding.
Yeah.
Come on.
This is a trivia. Apparently, hidden talents. But
That was a non-paid
Did I phrase that?
sponsorship,
Yeah.
by
they
the
have
way.
a West Side. So this is being in a major city. So my question would be, if this exists in smaller towns, probably not as much. But it's incredible in Los Angeles to meet the people who try and help people age at home or age with quality, or
Age
if you
in place,
age in
yes.
place. That's the term, right? And if you do need to move, that help you come out and help you move your things. How important it is to have your things with you if you do have to go
Absolutely.
into an assisted living. The stories of people that we meet, I feel like it's a book, ready to be written. Obviously, I want to protect people's
Right.
privacy, but the amazing people who then have to go through such an adjustment
Right.
at a later stage in life, and how challenging that can be.
And I think how I see it is, I'm really involved in Instagram and social media. So it's also something where it's a turn cheek. I have a friend, her name is Soraya, and Soraya, she's a model, she's an actress, extremely, extremely talented. Her mother has Alzheimer's, aggressive form of Alzheimer's, and when she posts about herself, about her body, it can be Nike or whoever that she's branding at that moment, the significant amount of people that comment, that like on her Instagram, or that respond to her appearance, and then now she's starting to post more about her mother. She lives in New York, so she stopped, what she was doing right now for work, just to care for her mom. At home, just 2 weeks ago, moved from California back to New York, and her mom, she's now blending all her foods, and now she's actually posting these live videos so people can see what it really is to live at home with a mom or a dad or a senior loved one with Alzheimer's. And the amount, it's like caring for some seniors, like caring for a 3-year-old again, which is the state that her mom is in right now. And it's really unfortunate, and she's seeing that she's getting a drop in the amount of people that are even interested. She's actually losing on Instagram, friends and followers
really?
and likes the post. So it's really sad to see that everything is based on your sexual appearance, but whenever you start posting real life situations, really there's people.
Well, unfortunately, and it's I still deal with the stigma less and less, but when people come to my office, even of the millennial generation, people are like, I think there's a little bit of stigma and shame about even asking for help.
Yes.
And admitting vulnerability or weakness or pain, or
Yes,
let alone
100%,
illness.
right.
And yet we know that, like, the minute that somebody admits they are a caregiver, or caregiver groups. When you connect with someone else who deals with the same thing, it's a tremendous bond.
It is.
Just feeling that someone else is witness to your pain. I think it's the loneliness that people begin to feel, is like, I'm the only one in this, and I can't associate with my friends who knew us when my loved one didn't have dementia. Or you start to cut off from certain events, as opposed to like learning how to adjust and to get yourself care, because that's really we have a training we do for my company on burnout and compassion fatigue. I mean, it's a real thing.
Caregiver strain, I think they frequently call it.
Oh, is that
the
medical term? Okay.
I don't know if it's
that's the ICD-9 code.
Yes.
That's caregivers.
DSM-4, I don't know.
I mean, I can't imagine, but you mentioned it paralleling, now they say the sandwich generation, people have young ones, and then you have...
Well, I do see a range in terms of the families of patients that I take care of. Like you said before, they're frequently geographically not, some might live in Los Angeles, but obviously they're not in a facility with their loved one. Mm-hmm. And there's a certain amount of trust that they place in the facility. And some are more comfortable with that level of trust, and some are less comfortable.
Right.
They really, are very anxious, not knowing what their mom or dad is doing from day to day, or what they're eating, or did they shower, or
to relinquish that duty.
Yes, and some are even further away. You could be on the East Coast, and mom's here in Los Angeles. That's very difficult. And what I frequently see is pressure on myself and on my practice to provide information and a higher level of oversight, which really is above and beyond what a doctor normally does, because they look to us to provide that. You're the eyes and ears that are there. You should know what's going on. And I go in as a doctor, and I might spend half an hour with the patient, but then I might not see them again for another month, and the family has a lot of anxiety about what's going on in that interim period. So it's a matter of trying, as a physician, trying to juggle expectations of patients and their families.
So how do you do that, and how do we set that expectation? Because that expectation comes, like you said, some of it is anxiety, right? It's I can be burnt out, or I can't handle caring for the person in my own home. On the other hand, I can't handle being separated.
I think a lot of it also comes from your background. I'll say, I'm Colombian. In our culture, you do not, your mom stays with you for the rest of your life. So whoever you do plan on marrying has to know that. But I think it also depending on culture. I know I have a lot of friends of Indian descent and Asian influence as well. And as well, in their families is that mom stays with you for the rest of your life. In other cultures, it's more accepted to, I don't want to say relinquish that responsibility, but if you're able to, I also think it comes with culture. And also if you do have the financial resources to do so.
Right, so depending on the dynamic of the marriage or the family, there could be guilt or...
And a lot of it is guilt. 100%, I do see that. That you don't want to give up that responsibility.
I think I would just add, it's a matter of setting expectations, and I try and be upfront with my patients and families. And I would say in the sports world as well, we had a situation. I don't know if we want to get into.
Sure, I said we were jumping back and forth.
Too. But to set expectations that look, mom is 94, and give me a sense of what your goals and expectations are. And my personal opinion, again, is less is more. Like, why do they need to be on a statin medication for their cholesterol at that age? And why does everyone need to be on aspirin? So I try and set that expectation that we need to think about the more palliative care focus and quality of life in terms of as we're moving forward. And at the same time, just being realistic as far as expectations. I'm not going to be able to improve mom to where she was 20 years ago, playing bridge and driving and cooking and what have you.
Right, and they're grieving that person. They're grieving that loss.
Correct. It's not the same person. But then, when we get to kind of end of life discussions and really setting expectations, to me, I think somewhat aggressive as far as making sure they're aware. in terms of what the future may hold, sometime sooner rather than later. I've been in personal situations where that information wasn't presented to me, so I know personally that it's difficult not being in the dark. And to me, it just it seems obvious. I see that your mom is declining and she's losing weight and she's not walking, and to me, that's someone who's not going to live very long. But a family member who's with a loved one all the time might not realize it. So I really see it as my job to make sure they're aware of what could be in the future, and so that whatever time they have left, they can do the things that they need to, have those discussions, review life history, and set their loved ones' expectations for the future when they're not around.
So let's touch on that, because that's that's kind of my job, right? But that's in a lot of ways delivering very difficult news. But that's one of the most difficult things that people are afraid of is telling the truth like that, and that's about the most sensitive of topics. So how do you prepare yourself for that? Was that something you had to be trained to do or learned in your schooling, and who supports you from holding that burden?
I would say,
besides Elizabeth.
It started. I was shortly after graduating college. I was 22, and my mom had lung cancer, and trying to support her in the limited time that I had with her. I wasn't at home, and I wasn't told until, frankly, late in her disease. But I got a sense of really the way that it shouldn't be done, and she died approximately 6 months later. So I, from that experience, had a strong sense of if I was ever on the other, if I were ever the one with information, that I wouldn't withhold it. And so, I think that I take that to heart and try and put myself in the other person's shoes.
Were you angry with the physicians?
Well, it wasn't as if it was, frankly, my father. I don't know if he's listening. I can text him the information, but
we'll do a free session.
I'm looking for look for the text. But it's a different generation, and I think the feeling was that kind of protecting and not wanting mom to be vulnerable in what she was going through. And frankly, I was away at college and after college, so.
It sounds
they
like
didn't
he was
need
just
to share
trying to
information.
protect you.
He was trying to protect me as well, likely. So, I remember those experiences well, and so I try and be upfront and with my patients in terms of looking at again to plug the being mortal again, but they do discuss this, that the end of life costs are extraordinary in this country, and especially here in Los Angeles. We have. When we look at the various strikes that are going on locally and nationally, from LAUSD to the federal government, there is end-of-life costs are extravagant, and especially Cedar. The studies have shown that at Cedars-Sinai and UCLA, those unnecessary end-of-life costs are double anywhere else in the country. And maybe you can share your thoughts on the psychology of locals and why they want to be aggressive and why doctors want to be aggressive, but it's hard to say, it's hard to pump on the brakes and not provide that, as much care as possible. But it's important to sit back and as a doctor to, I think, present both sides of the story. And as a doctor, am I going to be the one to say, present the information and let them, let a family make a decision, or push them one way or another? There is, in terms of how information is presented, there is a medical study, and I'm blanking on the exact title of there is a mnemonic, I think it's SCOPE. It was a study out of Johns Hopkins, and basically the S stands for setting. So when you're having that discussion, making sure that the setting is appropriate, or are there bells and whistles going off in the patient's hospital room, or are you, do you say to a family member, hey, let's go sit down and let's talk about what's going on, and take them to a quiet area and make sure you're looking eye to eye and
where they can process the
really,
information.
And the next step is asking them, do you mind if I'm open and honest with you? Do you mind if I share this information? Because not everyone is ready to receive. I heard you, several times over the weekend. He's like, saying to the boys on the team, like, you have to be ready to receive, and if you're not open to hearing feedback, then it's just going to be in one ear and out the other. So those steps are very important.
Thank you for touching upon my coaching blunders and all of that. You see how medicine and sports are intertwined. It's and even to use the sports analogy, I mean, when you're emotional and you're tired, you can see. I mean, this is just 10-year-old, 11-year-olds, right, that they cannot hear. And you could have rehearsed something or practiced something. So when you're in a time of life when things are so stressful and things become
There are distractions.
And it's so emotional. I mean, most people are just thinking, right? Especially if there's unresolved stuff in the relationship with the parents. I think that's it. You get called in. If you haven't worked it through, it's like, well, I don't want to lose them because I want more time to work it through. And it's hard. It's really hard to be objective and think about what's best for the person. I read a book. I don't know if it's the correct title. Your prescription drugs are killing you, or something like that. It's by a pharmacist down in, I think, Alabama or something like that. And that really opened things up for me about looking at the medication interactions, and that many physicians of today are not trained in how those get processed in your body as you age, and you just keep getting refilled the same medication throughout your life. And I've firsthand witnessed patients who were, previously famous actresses, and then you go in there and they're kind of catatonic. You make one shift in their medication and they're up, lively and running the card room. So having, just more care and attentiveness to having that medical eye.
Right, being an advocate for your patient or for your loved one if they can't really represent themselves because of their mental state or physical state.
So what can be done? What can be to get more physicians into the field practicing in geriatrics and specifically in mobile medicine? How do you build this conglomerate?
Well, I wish I had an easy answer, but I don't want too many because then I'm happy to have more patients. But competition is good, and certainly we need more doctors out there. I think, Medicare focusing more dollars and more revenue towards this type of care, I think would be helpful. Involving doctors in the continuum of care is important very much now. It's the doctor takes care of the patient, let's say as an outpatient, and then in the hospital there's a different doctor, and those doctors don't communicate. So the system just maybe figuring out more ways to allow for collaboration, but I don't have an easy answer as to how to get. I think it's again it's not glamorous,
right?
And so this is what society, as we've been discussing, it's not cool to take care of seniors.
Right.
I think UCLA's geriatric fellows, we have. There's something about prescription drugs and their addictive qualities. So maybe we could talk about that. But and UCLA's geriatric fellows, I think, had only 2 last year, 2 enrollees.
Right.
So
what did you say?
The program, I think, for UCLA in psychiatry, they only had 2 graduates. I could be wrong on that number, but it felt there's not a lot of people coming out, and I think there's a lot of pressure coming out of med school with mounting student loan costs to charge top dollar for the market.
To segue to kind of a different area that I do spend some time on is that there has been focus and development as far as technology in medicine, and I think that this could help the senior population and provide access and make it more appealing for physicians. So there has been growth in the fields of telemedicine and remote patient monitoring, and as a physician, to me it's exciting. It's an opportunity to stress my brain and be involved in different areas other than just strict patient care, but broadening that patient care and utilizing technology, and that is an exciting field.
So
and
you're
it's
hooking them up with a bunch of Fitbits, or
well, that is certainly a possibility.
Tracking their biorhythms.
I've connected with several different companies looking, that have different programs, and one is an Israeli company. I'll give them a plug. It's Somatics, but they
good
have.
Name.
So they've developed the technology which can be used either with an Apple Watch or any Fitbit, or they have their own Fitbit type device. But they have figured out through computer modeling what position is the patient in? Is the patient feeding himself? Did the patient fall down? They're even able to tell, is the patient smoking?
So they're really changing the game in the industry.
They're certainly. I mean, this is one company, and there are many that are on similar platforms.
What is
as
it?
well.
It's a wearable, or it's a bracelet?
It's a wearable, yes. And in the senior population, it has significant applications, because you could be in New York and mom's at an assisted living in Los Angeles, and you can tell just based on her hand movements. Did she fall down at all today? Did she eat? Did she drink? If she's a smoker, did she smoke?
Test, like, if she did fall, what happened? What happened before she fell? So what were her steps, or what was her blood pressure like before the fall? So they're really able to look into before the fall to see if there was anything of significant value that.
And then information gets uploaded to the cloud, and you could be anywhere looking at that.
Yeah, and I know that some of our, I think it's Allison Beal is her name. From the senior networking community, does a training for seniors at UCLA's fair every year on technology. So learning how to use your smartphone. They even have a phone now, forgive the term, but like a smartphone for dummies, where it only has a few numbers. Right. Uber, certain services that if you want to give it to mom or dad having some cognitive decline, it kind of just has a few numbers.
Right.
And I think it even will call Uber for you.
Right. You bring up a really good topic, because that goes back to education. If the seniors don't know how to use their phone, they can't see everything that they have the accessibility to. And the same thing goes with your insurance and with medicine. If you don't know, if you're not educated really on what your insurance can provide, or there's some people, I'm sure, that don't know that mobile physicians still exist in today's world, or that mobile, psychologists still exist in this world. So I think a lot of it also comes to just education. If you go to a hospital and you get discharged and they discharge you to a skilled nursing facility, for example, somebody that doesn't know, is not aware, think that they must go to that one skilled nursing facility, not knowing that they have options. So everything, it just ends up boiling down to education. And if you're not aware, you don't know what questions to even ask.
Well, it's kind of paradoxical, because it seems very millennial as we move to the Ubers and Lyfts and everything being shared and things like that, that being able to have access to something mobile would apply as well to the geriatric population, especially people who are at home with caregivers who, it's a hard choice for them to have to go through placement, or there's monetary limitations. So certainly the service you guys are providing is amazing, and we hope that more people will find out about it.
Thank you. I apply that to Dr. Lefferman.
Thank you.
But I did ask a question you glossed over. We got about, I think 7 minutes left here, which is, how do you take care of yourself? How do you, release that burden for yourself? And then, how is that tied into your, love for sports and involvement? Like, does it feel like a burden to take on these weekend longs and countless emails, or does it feel like some sort of a catharsis and distraction from all those heavier things?
I wonder sometimes, am I doing it for my kid or for myself? And I can't tell you the exact
Keep
percentage.
wondering. That's very healthy. That questioning is very healthy.
I would say that, though, for my oldest is 17 now.
17.
Yes, she's 17. Actually, just returned from a week of looking at colleges with her in Boston and New York. So,
and you were selecting purely for her.
Yes, no, for sure.
You were thinking, where would I like to visit? Which restaurants? Where's the nicest gym?
So, and then I have a son who is now 15, and then also an 11-year-old.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. Yes, he just had a birthday yesterday. Happy birthday, Joshua. But I would say very much when they were younger, my focus was primarily on them, and really dedicated a lot of time to their activities. And like you mentioned and plugged, I helped to create a soccer program and basketball program for kids on the west side of Los Angeles, and it was very successful, and really enjoyed doing that. And I think at a certain point I looked at myself in the mirror to a certain extent and said, I really need to spend more time focused on myself, and as far as exercising and diet, and have really over the last, I'd say, 5 years especially, have focused more of my energies. So it's kind of gone up and down, but it's hard to strike that balance.
Yeah, don't be afraid to tell everyone how you bicycled from Beverly Hills to Watts at 7 in the morning. I mean, what was that like? What's it like to see the city like that?
It was a pleasant ride. It was a pleasant ride. Although I would say Saturday when I biked back from just Culver City, I got a flat tire. So thankfully it wasn't coming back from Watts.
Oh no!
Yes, but I
Did you
had
make
to
it
walk
close
the
to
farm.
home?
Relatively close. But you do
The
what you
round
have
of
to do,
shame.
and you make sacrifices, and somehow you try and fit it all in.
Yeah. So that's a creative way, right, to find a way to take
I
care of
mean-
yourself and see the city and
I mean,
explore
I think
it.
it's a nice release, what you guys are doing, and hopefully if any of your kids are actual, pros at that sport, maybe it's a call to an early retirement for you too.
Hey, well, we're waiting on the board, of sports psychology. They've got my certification packet in front of them, so fingers crossed we're going to get
Yes.
there sooner or later.
Yes.
And I appreciate all the people that have stepped up for me and submitted on my behalf, and all the coaches. And it's true, you really get this a sense of, well, some of these kids are 10 or 11 or 12, but having been connected to people who are now 16, 17, you see the ones who love it. You do see the ones who are receptive. And it's not always the most talented. I mean, I do think it is about me, and that I'm looking for kids that are mirrors of me, that had a lot of desire and maybe not the most amount of talent. And so, I just am self-aware, or, are willing to learn. And I think that's a beauty. The beauty of it is that we have a kid on our team. I think it's his first year playing. And when you get a sense of where they're at, then the expectations are clear. When someone's new and has desire and loves coaching, it's a very rewarding process. And when someone is talented but does not see the value in that, or is working out something emotionally and doesn't see the value of working with others, it's very challenging. It brings out a different set of challenges and skills.
It's hard to look through things through the kid's lens versus our lens now, like what decisions they should make, or even plays on the field. It's so easy to cut left, but they didn't do it, why not, or pass it there. So that's as a coach now, it's difficult.
That's why. The importance. I'm just still learning now to grow into coaching and practice. That the things you work on. Really the game is just an extension of your practice. So we do have to share that. I think there is a lot of excitement. We didn't expect to do anything. We did come out and upset the number 1 seed, and there is a certain amount of excitement in that. That even though it doesn't show, they've individually or collectively improved to the highest of levels. It is a sign that things are happening, and if they do trust each other, if they do get the concept of team,
But more than anything, you're bringing the community together.
that's the beauty of it. Yeah, that is the beauty of it. Even that, I started talking to some parents about building community, and they told me, I like to say right on the outside of the community. So you get to learn all about different people's upbringings, family systems, and it all comes together. Family dynamics, who's going through separation, who's going through business struggles, who's especially with youth sports, you get a lot of what's happening at home. So we're gonna have to wrap up soon. So it's been a pleasure. I think we could go on and talk for clearly hours about youth sports, geriatric medicine. I just have to say, if you have an opportunity to donate an hour or two of your time, if you're looking to get out of your own funk, give to younger kids, give to older people. I mean, there's such rewards there, and it'll fill you up with a sense of purpose, no matter where you're at or where you're feeling stuck. Feeling connected is really part of life's purpose and meaning, and can shift your mood in the long run. So I'm grateful today.
That's giving back.
That's right.
And giving back.
And I'm grateful that we had Elizabeth Giraldo here and Dr. Matthew Lefferman. We're going to give them a chance to share about how you can reach them and learn more about mobile medicine, geriatric care. And if you want to coach and take something off Dr. Lefferman's plate, maybe he'll share a little with you.
Step in for me.
Or if you've got an app in healthcare technology, the frontiers, he's got his finger on the pulse. So tell us a little bit, Elizabeth and Matthew, how can we get a hold of you, or how can people reach out to you and learn more?
Yeah, absolutely. So first, hi everyone once again, it's Elizabeth, but you can always visit us online on our website at www.accesshealthca.com or
where?
That's
the best place, I think.
That would absolutely
Do we have
be the
somewhere else?
best
Yeah,
place.
maybe you guys need to be available via Twitter. You know, if the geriatric
and of course,
tweets.
you can always
They
visit
don't,
Dr. Lefferman on his LinkedIn page.
Yes.
But you can, of course, see everything that everyone that we service and all the services that we do on www.accesshealthca.com.
Yes, and if any more questions come up as we post the show, as you see it up on Spotify, thank you, and iTunes, we are now going to be available. Anything on my Instagram page when you get pictures of today's show. Any questions for Matthew about his training and expertise, or Elizabeth, please shout them out. We'll try and get them answered for you. And thank you, as always, for tuning in. See you again live in 2 weeks. And look for promos on our Instagram page. Thank you, everybody.